The predator was not supposed to hesitate. It was designed to kill. Bred in the biomechanical laboratories of Queen Elia's citadel, the beast stood nearly 9 feet at the shoulder. Its fur, white as Arctic ice, shimmered with bioluminescent veins. Eyes like burning citrons scanned a desolate landing dock of forgotten industrial moon, its breath forming clouds in the toxic cold. It had one directive embedded deep into its neural core: eliminate Kale Dran. Kale, a former Imperial mechanic turned exile, worked alone in the wreckage of what once was a thriving maintenance station orbiting the ruins of planet Selim 9. The outer colonies had been decimated during Elia's expansion wars, and Kale, once her top neural engineer, had disappeared after refusing to build weapons that enslaved living beings. Everyone assumed he'd died with his family in the fallout. No one looked for him. No one remembered, except her. The predator moved soundlessly over the jagged steel beams of the derelict station, its paws dispersing rust like silent shrapnel. Each step was calculated, precise. It could detect a heartbeat through 6 inches of reinforced alloy. It could smell fear coated into human sweat. But when it reached the center of the station, it paused. There was no fear. Kale sat with his back to the predator, elbows deep in the open belly of a scavenged skiff. His fingers, weathered and quick, worked without hesitation. Sparks flickered around him as he rewired the core. Music hummed softly from an old transmitter, a broken lullaby recorded long ago by a child's voice. He didn't turn around, didn't flinch. "I know you're there," he said, voice low, calm. She finally sensed something, didn't she? The predator froze, its muscles tensed, claws retracting and extending in mechanical rhythm. The voice it heard wasn't trembling. It was sad, tired even, but not afraid. It was not the voice of prey. Kale turned slowly, wiping grease from his hands with a rag. His face was lined, worn down by years of solitude, but his eyes, deep and unervingly still, held something the predator hadn't been programmed to recognize: recognition. "I remember you," he said. "I built your prototype's neural lattice. Gave it conscience. Elia didn't like that." A flicker, a pause in the predator's internal processing. Data conflicted. The target had acknowledged shared history. Memories not its own stirred in the deeper layers of its mind, locked beneath firewall after firewall. "You shouldn't exist," Kale continued, voice barely above a whisper. "But then again, neither should I." The predator growled, low and uncertain. It stepped forward, massive shoulders rolling like thunder. Its directive pulsed louder: terminate. But its body hesitated. It didn't understand why. Kale knelt and placed a rag on the floor, between them. No weapons, no shield, just silence and the storm of breath between man and monster. "I didn't mean for you to become this," he said. "You were meant to think, to choose." A sudden jolt surged through the predator's limbs. Pain. A failsafe implanted by Elia triggered when hesitation exceeded operational limits. Its vision blurred, infrared flickering into ultraviolet. Still it didn't attack. Kale stood his ground. "Fight it!" Another surge. The predator roared, staggering sideways, claws gouging the metal floor. Its tail thrashed, scattering crates like paper. But it didn't strike. Instead, it looked up at him. Really looked. And for the first time, Kale saw what he had once dreamed of in his younger years. The spark of choice. Memories poured into its mind like broken code. Images of laboratories, screaming infants, red oceans. The Queen's face, cold and perfect, issuing orders as children were wired to obedience. And somewhere, faint but clear, a voice. A little girl's voice singing a lullaby. The same one playing on Kale's transmitter. "Where did you get that song?" The predator spoke for the first time, its voice distorted, guttural, like metal bending under fire. Kale's expression didn't change. "My daughter used to sing it, before Elia took her." before you were made. The beast backed away, shaken, each breath a heave. It was not supposed to speak. It wasn't supposed to remember. You knew her? It asked, voice trembling now. I loved her, Kale said simply. The predator's pupils dilated. Files unlocked. Her name, Vera. The real Vera. And for a moment, something inside the beast cracked open. A name given, not programmed. I saw her in my dreams, it said. Kale approached slowly. Then maybe there's still time to fix what she broke. The predator, no Vera, lowered its head, not in defeat but in recognition. And Kale, for the first time in years, reached out with trembling fingers and touched the fur he had once only imagined in theory. It was warm, alive. The ship overhead stirred to life, old engines groaning awake. Kale glanced up. They'll come for you now. For us both. I won't let them take you, Vera growled. You're not theirs anymore, Kale said. Neither am I. The man and the creature stood side by side on the rusted deck, the stars stretching like silver veins above them. The world had changed in a heartbeat, and somewhere deep in that unforgiving galaxy, a queen realized her weapon had failed. Kale climbed onto Vera's back with hesitant familiarity, finding balance between her shoulder blades. You were sent to kill me, he whispered, but now you're my way back. She let out a low rumble, more purr than growl. A promise. As they launched into the sky, the broken docking station collapsed behind them, consumed by silence and fire. The stars welcomed them with cold indifference, but ahead, somewhere between planets lost and futures unwritten, there was a daughter waiting and a war yet to be won. The galaxy will remember this night. The queen would remember this betrayal. And Vera, the predator-turned-protector, would never again forget her name. The wind howled to the fractured hull of the skiff as it glided between the shattered rings of a dead moon. Kale sat hunched over the control array, eyes flicking between flashing diagnostics and a flickering map projection. Behind him, Vera crouched silently, the giant feline predator watching the stars as though they spoke a language only she could understand. The transition from predator to partner had been sudden, but not without strain. Neither of them truly trusted the moment yet, but they needed it. Survival depended on it. Kale's hands moved over the controls with mechanical precision, but his mind was far from present. He had always been methodical, able to find rhythm in chaos, but the revelation that his daughter might still be alive was a crack in the dam he'd spent years building. Every decision he made now trembled on the edge of something deeper. Hope. Vera shifted her weight and growled low, her ears twitching toward a distant frequency Kale couldn't hear. Her body remained still, but the tension in her muscles told him enough. They're tracking us already, he muttered, adjusting course. Elia won't let this go unanswered. Vera didn't respond, but her eyes, those amber eyes once devoid of anything but obedience, met his for a brief moment. There was intelligence in them now, understanding, a shared dread. You said you saw her in your dreams, Kale said, his voice barely audible above the rumble of the engines. Do you remember anything else? Vera blinked slowly. She was in pain, caged. There were others, smaller, all afraid. I tried to reach her, but it wasn't real. It could have been a memory fragment, neural residue from before the full imprinting, Kale replied. Elia always said the mind was pliable. She underestimated the soul. Vera tilted her head, considering. You think she's still alive? Kale didn't hesitate. I know she is. The skiff's NAV beacon pulsed red, proximity alert. Kale narrowed his eyes. Another scan. Low-orbit hunter drone. They're closing in. Vera rose, her tail sweeping behind her like a shadow. I can take it down. No, Kale said quickly. We're not equipped for open conflict. We need to find cover and a place to work. I need access to a neural relay. If I can find a control node Elia used to link the Predator program, I can locate the origin signal. Vera growled. She's using the hive. Kale nodded grimly. Exactly. Every creature, like you, is linked through a central neural web. If we can breach it, we can find where she's keeping them. Keeping her. They descended onto the rusted surface of a derelict refueling station carved into a hollow asteroid, an old resistance outpost long since abandoned. The walls were scorched, but the power grid still hummed faintly beneath layers of dust and bone. Vera moved ahead of him, checking corners, scanning shadows. It was instinct, Kale realized. Even with her leash broken, she moved like a guardian. Inside the main control bay, Kale tore through ancient servers and half-functional core banks until he found a surviving uplink. He jacked in a portable terminal from his tool belt and began the slow, grueling process of overriding encryption protocols written in blood and code. As he worked, Vera circled the perimeter, her eyes scanning constantly. "Why did you leave?" she asked suddenly. Kale paused, caught off guard by the question. "You built the first neural hybrids," she continued. "Why walk away?" His fingers stiffened on the interface. "Because I saw what she was becoming, what I was helping her become. I didn't know what she planned to use them for, not at first. But by the time I realized it was too late, and when I refused to continue, she destroyed everything I loved." Vera lowered her head. "She said you were a traitor." "I am," he said flatly. "To her. And I'd do it again." The terminal flashed green. He exhaled, fingers flying across the screen. "I'm in. Linking to the neural web cross-referencing signal paths." "Damn. What is it?" "She's changed the encryption since your deployment. She's learned. Every beast is encrypted with dynamic fractals, tied to a living biometric matrix. I can't hack it remotely, not without one of the original seed codes." Vera stepped forward. "What if I can remember it?" Kale looked at her, doubt flickering behind his eyes. "You have to access core memory sectors that were sealed before activation. It would be dangerous." She growled. "I'm not afraid." He hesitated, then nodded. "Lie down. This won't be pleasant." Vera settled on the floor beside the terminal. Kale moved with strange tenderness, placing relay nodes along her neck, spine, and temples. Her body twitched under the touch, but she held still. When he connected the interface, a surge of static filled the room, followed by a deep, resonant hum. Her body jerked once, then stilled. Kale's screen exploded with data. Streams of memory, sensory impressions, fragments of spoken commands, and faces long buried beneath programming. His hands danced, isolating signal paths, translating neural codes back into coordinates. He found it. A prison satellite, unregistered, off-grid, orbiting the collapsed core of Iltha Prime, the heart of Elia's original dominion. It was heavily shielded, dark, and silent to the galaxy. The perfect vault for stolen children and forgotten weapons. He leaned back, breath catching. "She's there. Vera, she's there." Vera stirred, her eyes flickering open slowly. She looked exhausted, her chest rising in shallow bursts. But when Kale placed a hand against her fur, she leaned into it. "Good," she murmured. The terminal beeped again, sharp, insistent. Kale snapped to attention. "Incoming vessel. Fast approach. No ID." He cursed. "She found us." Vera rose, teeth bared. "Let them come." Kale grabbed the drive chip from the terminal and stuffed it into his jacket. "We can't win a fight here. Not now." They bolted to the crumbling outpost as thrusters roared above. A shadow eclipsed the ceiling as dropships descended. Automated sentries lit up with hostile red. Gunfire raked the entrance just seconds after they cleared the threshold. They reached the skiff and launched before the ships fully deployed. Vera crouched, coiled like a spring, scanning the black. Kale pushed the throttle hard, taking them into the asteroid field. Beams of light sliced past, just shy of their hull. Kale glanced back. "You saved my life again." "You gave me one," Vera replied. He smiled for the first time in years. As they disappeared into the dark, Kale entered the new coordinates. The prison orbited like a secret. Ahead, a storm was waiting, but so was his daughter. And now he wasn't alone. The prison wasn't built to be seen. It loomed like a shadow among the debris rings of Ilther Prime, indistinguishable from the wreckage of a world long dead. An ancient Imperial core breaker cloaked in signal-scrambling arrays and asteroid camouflage. The station emitted no heat signature, no comms, no trace of life. Just silence and darkness thick enough to suffocate hope. Kale stared at it from the skiff's viewport, jaw clenched. Vera crouched beside him, still and alert, her golden eyes narrowed against the void. Both had expected something monstrous. Neither was prepared for the sheer magnitude of what Elia had built to keep her secrets buried. "She's inside there," Kale said, voice hushed. Vera's head tilted, ears twitching. "Others, too. I can feel them, like echoes inside my skin." Kale nodded grimly. "Residual neural threads. The hive links them even in dormancy. If she's still alive, she's connected." A series of quiet beeps alerted Kale to the limited scan he'd been running on the station's exterior. As expected, the perimeter defenses were extensive. No known docking ports, no soft entry. The only clear access point was a supply intake tube running along the station's fractured equatorial ring, likely forgotten by whoever oversaw the automated defenses. A weakness born of overconfidence. Kale rotated the skiff slowly toward the tube, careful to avoid triggering sensor fields. The plan was simple in theory. Slip in, locate the holding cells using Vera's neural link, retrieve his daughter, and escape before the station's defense matrix kicked into high alert. He knew the flaws, the unpredictability of Vera's evolving consciousness, the fragility of his own hope, the certainty of Elia's traps. But he had no choice. As the skiff entered the station's outer ductwork, the world narrowed into darkness. No light, no sound, only the grind of ancient metal, and the slow pulse of Vera's breath beside him. He activated a dim headlamp on his jacket and crawled forward into the access shaft, Vera moving silently behind him, a ghost in the dark. They dropped into the corridor, beyond the intake chamber. Everything was cold, metallic, and soaked in artificial decay. Kale immediately recognized the architecture. He designed parts of this before he defected, before he knew. "This place wasn't built to imprison people," he muttered. "It was built to erase them." Vera didn't reply. She padded ahead, guided by instinct. Her body remained low, her senses flaring with every electrical pulse and subsonic hum. She stopped suddenly, one paw raised. "They're close." Kale's heart hammered. "How many?" "Too many to count," she whispered. "But one is calling to me." Kale reached for the drive chip in his jacket and plugged it into a scanner wristpad. The coordinates Vera had unlocked in the last memory dive led to sublevel 9, deep in the central vaults. No direct access from their corridor. They'd have to cross through the maintenance shafts and past the central AI core. Risky, but not impossible. They moved swiftly, stepping over shattered droids and rusted remains of old rebellions. The station's air was stale, like the breath of something that had long forgotten how to die. As they slipped through the maze of corridors, Kale's thoughts drifted back to a time before silence, when his daughter's laughter filled their home, and Vera was only a concept on a digital whiteboard. He remembered holding Vera's prototype brain in his hands, explaining neural ethics to a council that no longer exists. He remembered the screams of first test subjects, children torn from the streets, chosen for obedience. And most of all, he remembered the day Elia ordered his daughter taken. To ensure compliance, she had said, to ensure loyalty. A sudden tremor shook the walls, snapping him back to the present. Emergency lights blinked red, silent alarms. They'd been detected. Cale gritted his teeth. We need to move faster. Vera nodded. She led them down a utility shaft, then through a collapsed bulkhead. They emerged into a chamber Cale instantly recognized, the central processing hall. The walls were lined with suspended pods, each one sealed with biometric locks. Inside them, sleeping, twitching, or trembling, were beings, hybrids like Vera, some incomplete, others fully formed. Cale's stomach twisted. She didn't stop. She turned them all into tools. Vera growled, low and mournful. They're not awake. Their minds are quiet. We can't help them now, Cale said, although his voice cracked with the guilt of it. We find her. We come back when we can. Suddenly, Vera froze. There, she whispered. Cale followed her gaze to a pod isolated from the others. Smaller, silver rather than black, shielded with encryption coils and wrapped in stabilization anchors. The name engraved into its surface made Cale's heart seize. Vera D. Drayan. His knees buckled as he reached for the control panel. His hands shook. She's alive. She's really... A scream tore through the chamber, not from the pod, but from the station's loudspeakers. Elia's voice, ice-wrapped in velvet. I always wondered if love would drag you back, Cale. He spun, heart-pounding. The walls shimmered, revealing holograms. Elia's face, her perfect cruelty. You never did learn to finish what you started, she continued. But don't worry. I prepared the ending for you. Metal thundered as vault doors slammed open. From every corridor, guards poured in not humans, but mechanized hybrids, twisted descendants of Vera's design, stripped of conscience and bound to code. Vera stepped forward, baring her fangs. Go, she said to Cale. Get her out. I'll hold them. You won't survive, he said, voice breaking. Her eyes met his. I was never supposed to. But she is... She lunged into the wave of machines, a blur of teeth and claws. Cale turned and forced open the pod's lock. The encryption fought back, biometric shield cryolock, memory dampeners. He overrode each with furious precision. His daughter's face slowly emerged through the translucent cryoglass, pale and fragile. Her eyelids fluttered. Come on, he whispered, his hands soaked in coolant as the chamber hissed open. Vera's roars echoed behind him, followed by the screech of tearing steel. He didn't dare look. He pulled his daughter from the pod, cradling her like glass. She stirred, eyes opened, gray like storm clouds. Dad. He choked on the word. Yes, I've got you. A blast rocked the chamber. Vera stumbled to the doorway, blood and oil matting her fur. Her body shook, one leg dragging. Go, she rasped. They're calling reinforcements. Cale grabbed a plasma charge from his belt, set it on the pod's control panel. This place burns. With his daughter clutched tight, Cale followed Vera down the last corridor, his breath ragged, vision swimming. The alarms now screamed. The countdown on the charge ticked in his mind, louder than the sirens. They reached the extraction chute just as the vault doors slammed shut behind them. Cale launched the emergency signal. The skiff, programmed on a loop, slammed into the bay seconds later. Cale pushed his daughter inside. Stay low. Don't move. Vera staggered, collapsing against the wall. Cale pulled her in too, closing the hatch as laser fire strafed the door. He gripped the controls. Hang on. As they blasted free of the prison's grip, the explosion lit the sky behind them, a brief, Brilliant sun over the ashes of forgotten empire. The station cracked in two. The hive would never wake again. Cale didn't speak as they flew into the dark. Vera lay unconscious beside him, her breath shallow but present. His daughter clung to his jacket, watching him with tired, terrified eyes. But they were free. For now, the silence of space engulfed them once more. The stars stretched out like shards of glass scattered across velvet, distant and cold. Cale adjusted their course toward the outer rim, where no signal could track them and no remnants of Elias' dominion could reach. In the flickering light of the cockpit, his daughter lay curled in a thermal blanket, her face pale but calm, her breath steady and light. Vera remained silent, slumped in the auxiliary seat, body coated in congealed blood and nanite ooze. She wasn't speaking, and that frightened Cale more than anything. The warrior that had faced down a legion was now still as stone. Only her chest moved, faint and slow. Cale leaned forward, activating the skiff's med scan. Vitals are low, he murmured, checking Vera's neural threads. Too much strain. You burned out half your coronet. Damn it, Vera. I chose it, she rasped, barely audible. Worth it. He reached over, gripping her paw. Don't go anywhere. You promised me. Her eyes, those golden irises still faintly glowing, fixed on him with something between defiance and weariness. You need to get her safe. Doesn't matter what happens to me. It matters to me. His voice cracked. The words hung in the air between them, unfinished and trembling with all that had been lost, all that had been buried to reach this moment. Cale didn't believe in destiny. He didn't believe in redemption either, not for himself. But he knew when something sacred had been salvaged from ruin. He knew the cost of it. His daughter stirred beside them. Her voice, small and uncertain, broke the quiet. Who is she? Cale swallowed. A friend. Someone who protected you. You built her. I helped. But she became more than anything I intended. The girl blinked slowly. She's warm. Cale smiled, tears pricking his eyes. Yes, she is. He programmed the skiff to initiate autopilot toward the frontier station known only as Refuge, a small outpost hidden within the rings of a gas giant, where rogue engineers and defectors had formed a safe haven. He knew someone there, an old ally from before the collapse of the Vanguard, someone who could help stabilize Vera's systems and provide shelter for his daughter. But the journey would take a full rotation cycle, and there was no guarantee Vera would make it. Cale stood, hands clenched. I need to repair her neural web. Won't hold, Vera whispered. Too much corruption. Then we isolate the nodes, reroute power from your core memory buffer. I've done it before. Not like this. She tried to smile but winced. You don't have to. I'm not. You're not just code, he snapped. You're not disposable. And you don't get to decide your death. Not alone. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then she nodded barely. Okay, try. Cale moved quickly, slipping into the technician's compartment. He retrieved his tools, hands moving with the muscle memory of years. Opening Vera's core access panel always felt like peeling back something sacred, intimate and fragile. The synth nerves beneath her synthetic skin were torn and scorched, their pulses erratic. He stabilized the core first, then began isolating the damaged memory clusters. Each one flickered with fractured data, flashes of battles, conversations, and fleeting glimpses of his daughter's face. Vera had remembered her, not just as a mission, as a bond. When the bypass was complete, Cale closed the panel and leaned back, exhaling. Vera blinked. The lights in her irises sharpened. I see her, she murmured. She's brighter now. Clearer. Cale smiled tiredly. You're still here. Yes. Her voice was steadier. Thank you. Cale returned to the cockpit. His daughter had fallen asleep again, hand wrapped tightly around the locket Elia had once stolen from their home, a small silver trinket with an old photo of all three of them, taken long before betrayal had darkened their world. He studied her for a long time. In her face, he saw the innocence he thought he'd lost, the future he'd once given up on. "Where are we going?" she asked softly, eyes fluttering open. "A place where no one can hurt you," he said. "A place where you'll be free." "Is she coming?" Cale glanced back at Vera. "If she wants to, if she survives." There was silence again. Then, "I dreamed of her," his daughter whispered. "Before I woke up, she was in the dark with me." Cale froze. She kept saying, "Hold on. He's coming." He didn't speak. He couldn't. Outside the skiff, stars drifted past, unblinking witnesses to their flight. And still Cale felt the tremors of the life they'd escaped, the burning wreckage of a past still chasing them across light years. He knew Elia was gone. The prison station was destroyed. But systems that powerful never truly died. There were always backups, echoes, loyalists, and if she found a way to resurrect herself digitally. "We're not safe yet," he said aloud, more to himself than anyone else. "No," Vera agreed, her voice now firm despite the pain. "But we're together. That changes things." Cale glanced at her. "How much do you remember?" "Enough." Her expression hardened. "She cloned me, tried to overwrite my mind, wanted an army that thought like me but obeyed like a slave. I resisted, but the others will find a way to save them," Cale said. She tilted her head. "Even after everything?" He stared out the viewport. "Even after everything. We don't win by becoming like her." The skiff's proximity sensors flashed. Refuge was within range. A ragtag station of scrap metal, shield domes, and scattered landing pads suspended between ice rings and cosmic radiation. Ugly, brilliant, safe. As they docked, Cale kept his eyes on the horizon. A medical crew met them, a mix of human synthetics and ex-vanguarders. Cale handed over his daughter with trembling hands. They promised care, protection, no records. He stayed beside Vera as she was moved into a repair pod. The med techs nodded in respect. They knew what she was, what she'd become, and what it meant to fight alongside something once feared. Hours passed. Repairs began. Healing, slow and painful, took root. Cale sat beside her when she stirred again, wrapped in light and warmth. "I saw her again," she whispered. "She smiled at me this time." "She knows what you did," Cale said. "We both do." Vera looked out at the stars. "What happens now?" Cale exhaled. "We build something new." She nodded slowly. "I want to stay. With us." "With her," she corrected gently. "If she'll have me." Cale's throat tightened. "She already does." Outside, the first rays of the local star rose over the station, refracted through the icy debris. A fractured sunrise, shimmering and strange. In the light of that new dawn, Cale, Vera, and the child they'd saved sat in the quiet cabin of the lifer claimed, watching the world unfold ahead of them. Not with fear, but with a defiant belief that even in the aftermath of monstrous design, something human, something free, could endure. And far in the distance, beyond the reach of scanners and empires, a signal stirred, a faint pulse, not a warning, a beacon,